to the Z exhibit.
What's up, guys? It's Andy Frisella.
This is your boy, Frau Munch.
This is Ryan Serhant.
This is Shingy.
Hi, it's Patrick David.
Sonia Sarbatani.
This is Director X.
Hey, everybody, I'm Forbes Riley.
Yo, this is Goldie.
This is Amberly Lago.
This is Chris Voss.
Michael Francis here.
Yo, this is Charlie Tuna.
Hey, what's up? It's Billy G.
And you're listening to The Run GpG
podcast.
Well, I'm going to go hang out and listen to David's next podcast from The Run GpG.
You might hear something you like. Peace.
Erik Huberman is the founder and CEO of Hawke Media, the fastest growing marketing consultancy in the United States. Launched in 2014, Hawke Media has been valued at 9 figures and has grown his company from 7 to over 300 employees internationally. The company has serviced over 3,000 brands of all sizes, from startups to household names like Red Bull, Verizon, and Alibaba. Hawke Media has taken home numerous industry awards, including Inc. 500's list of fastest growing companies, Fortune magazine's 50 best workplaces, with Erik being named the International Business Awards Entrepreneur of the Year in Advertising, Marketing, and Public Relations. As a serial entrepreneur and marketing expert, Erik Huberman is a sought-after leader in the world of digital marketing and entrepreneurship. He is also a regular contributor to major publications like Forbes, Entrepreneur Magazine. He's also about to release his new book, The Hawke Method. We're looking forward to talking about all things branding and marketing, as well as a new book with our guest today, Erik Huberman. Welcome to the Run GpG podcast.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me.
Yeah, excited to have you. There's so much I do want to cover with you in this interview today, not just because you're a successful entrepreneur. We were talking about that before we started recording here, but you do have a proven method to grow and scale brands, and you have a unique perspective on this. And of course, your book talks about that. But first, to get some perspective, I do want to ask you, what is your background and how did you get into the world of advertising, marketing, and branding?
Yeah, it started with judgment and animosity towards the world, as a lot of times it does. No, I mean, I always joke that a lot of people think they're born for what they do. And I, in college, would make fun of marketing majors and be like, what do you do? Like, draw pretty pictures? Like, what's a marketing major? What are you studying? And what's funny is, like, I took management, which is just the same thing. Like, it means nothing. What's business management as a college degree? But I didn't really take it seriously, but I graduated 2008, went into real estate exactly a week before the entire US banking industry collapsed. And so scrambled to figure out what I was going to do and ended up getting into e-commerce. So I started an online music company back in mid 2009. Hey, what do you call it? So I did that for 2 years. Then I built a t-shirt subscription site called Swag of the Month that we sold after about a year and a half. Then I built a women's activewear brand that we sold to Bowie Total Fitness after a year. Started advising and consulting, realized that the marketing ecosystem was completely broken. And I had a little bit of a track record at that point. Started helping some companies do it and realized I needed a team because most agencies were terrible out there. And I'm simplifying it, but started growing and building. And here we are, 300 and change people later.
I paused when you said Swag of the Month Club. That's a great name.
Thank you. Yeah, back then it was like when Swag Beat was like the word of the year, we got Swag of the Month and it caught on. Like, that whole company was built off press, but it was fun. That was a fun ride. But then we did not know how to scale a business at that point. I was 24 when I started it, 25 when I sold it.
That's amazing. So young, a lot of experience in a short time. Now, your entrepreneurial journey a little bit, I want to unpack that a bit. As mentioned in your bio, you went from 7 employees to over 300 in multiple countries and continents now, right?
Yeah.
And you did all of this without outside capital. How were you able to grow and scale so quick?
Some sleepless nights and some heartburn, but like going for it. I mean, I've always been into this for the sake of like learning and growing and building. And so I get bored really easily if we're not. So the moment things are good and stable, I look for what's next? And so that's materialized in how do we expand the business? How do we grow internationally? What is the next phase of that? And looking down the field a little bit. And I also thankfully have such a great executive team. I have the benefit of being able to do that, but it also manifests in, other parts of the business. We're launching our venture fund, launching our financing arm, writing a book, all these things that all play in with each other and are synergistic. But the driving force behind it is frankly a desire to experience what life has to offer and try all these things and learn new things and build.
That's amazing. When I was preparing for this interview, I was watching an interview with you where you were talking about mergers and acquisitions being a part of your growth.
Yep.
Right. And then you were talking in a little bit more detail about the creativity that goes into mergers and acquisitions, right? How you can structure these in so many different ways. And a lot of people don't think of, M&As that way. What are your thoughts on that? And what advice would you give someone entering, that space for the first time?
Yeah. One of my least favorite lines is, "This is how things are done." I'm a very level-headed guy. When like executives have said that to me, or like partners, I've snapped. Cause like, I think that's a thing that people take is like, well, this is how it's done, so this is how we should do it. And like questioning everything, and not in like a grandiose way, but even in M&A, like, people ask me questions like, well, what revenue or what EBITDA multiple are you paying for these businesses? It's like, well, sometimes we don't pay an EBITDA multiple. It's like, what do you mean? It's like, really? You think there's only one way to buy a company? Like, come on. So it's, thankfully we've had some great partners in acquisitions, but we've been able to get creative that we align the interests a little more than a lot of these traditional holding companies that frankly are just running the same playbook they were hired to do, because most of the people running M&A at holding companies are hired guns. So when you're a founder, and you can kind of you don't frankly know everything there is to know about M&A, because I don't come from the finance world, but I've learned a lot. And I just went, well, why can't we just do a deal like this? And, we had a couple go early, which gave me the confidence that it could work. We had a bunch fall through, and it went, oh, well, maybe there's a chink in the armor here. And then it started to really pick up, and we realized the model that would work, the type of people we needed to do deals with, that kind of thing. And so now it's become a really cool, scalable part of our business. We just closed our 8th acquisition, and we're already under contract for a 9th, looking at a 10th and an 11th. So it's starting to move pretty fast, and we have a team around it now, but it's all done in a way that is pretty scalable for us.
That's super cool. Thanks for breaking that down. Now, when I was prepping for this, I heard you talk about 2017 being a pivotal year for you. You had an experience in Monaco with a friend that changed your perspective.
It was with my wife.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, it was your wife.
My girlfriend at the time, but yeah.
But it changed your perception and outlook for your company. Do you mind unpacking that? Because I love this story.
Yeah. And it's kind of evolved, because I just got quoted on another podcast. And I didn't think this was the clip they were going to call out, but it was kind of fun. So at the time it was, and it's the bougiest story, so it's ridiculous, but in 2017, business was doing well. I looked at my wife and said, we're young, no kids yet. We're boyfriend, girlfriend, but we had been together 3 years. So I'm like, why don't we just go check off the bucket list stuff? Like, let's go to the Monaco Grand Prix. I want to go heli boarding, which we have a mutual friend there. I want to do all these things that we've wanted to enjoy, and start just checking. Why wait till we're older? And so she wanted for her 30th birthday to go, south of France. We stumbled into the Cannes Film Festival, not even knowing it was going on, and just went and bought a tux and rented a dress and went to the parties, met a bunch of people. And we're sitting at the Monaco Grand Prix at the top of the Fairmont, because a buddy of mine was staying there, where it's like, that's where like, it's what the hairpin turn for the Grand Prix is, at the Fairmont. It's a crazy place to be. And I'm looking at all the $500 million boats sitting out in the bay. And I'm like, not that I ever want one of those, but I'd like the option to have one. And the way I'm building my business right now, I was 85% of our sales. I built a small sales team, but they weren't doing that much, because I was kind of in the way. And I was like, I can't scale anymore, and I've got to get out of the way. And so at that point, 3.5 years into business, driving most of the sales, I just ejected myself from the sales process. And when we need to find a way that this can grow, so that I can have the option to do whatever I want, not because I wanted to exercise it, but because I wanted optionality in life, and I wanted to be able to grow something big enough that I could do with the things I wanted to do. And that was a pivotal moment. I still remember sitting there, like, great weather, looking out at these boats. And again, I really don't have an interest to be on a 400-foot boat. Like, I'll go on one, it's cool, but like, I do like being on boats. I like being in the ocean, but I want to be on a boat that I can like just jump in the water in, not that I have to like get a crew of 7 people to go lower this electronic swim step to do. Like, that doesn't sit with me as well. So it wasn't about the yacht. It was about the concept of freedom. And that really drove a lot of decision-making going forward at the company. And then also, and this is what I talked about in another podcast, finding out that like my friends that have made billions of dollars in their lives all live off the same sort of $1 to $2 million a year, living the most crazy lifestyle they want, flying private, vacation homes, all of it. And I'm going, okay, so really the threshold is $1 to $2 million a year to really live that fun lifestyle. After that, the difference between someone that makes $2 million a year and someone that makes $200 million a year is actually not that big of a deal. They're just reinvesting it, donating to charity, buying a bigger house, bigger yacht, bigger plane, but doesn't really change your lifestyle.
That's really interesting, right? Like these life events that give you perspective on things. I love that story. And I heard you tell it, I thought it was really cool. Now, That may have been the beginning of your journey to writing a book. I'm not sure. But when it comes to branding and marketing, it looks like you've codified or created a process for it with your book, right? Mm-hmm. The Hawke Method, the 3 principles of marketing that made over 3,000 brands soar. So what was the genesis behind this book and why did you write it?
Yeah, no, it's what's fun is I feel, and it's not meant to be a conceited statement, but I feel like I did it the right way. We ran this method. I spoke on this. I did many, keynote speeches on the Hawke Method forever. I hadn't named it the Hawke Method yet. It was just our marketing methodology. How do I do marketing? How do I look at marketing? And I've been asked, one of the ways that have made us really successful, I've found myself as a peer to CEOs versus a lot of agency owners, meaning like I've been invited in like YPO and all these organizations that allow me to be the guy in the room that's a CEO, but also knows marketing, which I didn't learn until, partway through the business. Most CEOs don't. Mm-hmm. And they're looking for the, silver bullet marketing leader or marketing agency to fix it. And 99% of them are terrible. And so I started doing talks on like the things you should look at as a leader to monitor your marketing and the things that we do to look at, we do an audit with every client coming in and we have a method of like, what do we look at to make sure we are attacking their low-hanging fruit and figuring out where their opportunities are. And then we need to do that on an ongoing basis. And so there was this whole strategy around, the 3 pillars are awareness, nurturing, and trust, which are kind of 3 buckets that you have to cover in marketing. And I can go into more details, but it's all in the book too. But it's basically like looking at, well, where are they missing? If something's missing in their marketing, what would it be? Where should we attack? What are the, how do we audit a marketing strategy? And then I frankly met someone that I ended up bringing on to help me ghostwrite this. So I basically dictated to him, we edited it together, et cetera. But I met him at a party and he said, why have you wanted to write a book? I had actually put together pretty much a whole book before that I decided not to publish because it was about doing business without being greedy, called Greedless. Decided to hold off on it and visit it later. I didn't like how the content of it turned out. I like the concept, but not the content. And I just didn't want to spend more time on that. So when he approached me, it's like, I've gone through this before, but on this case, I can probably bust out the content in a day on what I put in this book because I talk about it all the time. We do it all the time. It's not like I have to research or like I had to pull stats to support what I was saying, but I knew all this intuitively. So that's where it came from, was right before COVID. So about 2.5 years ago, met him, decided to go down and do it. I think it took us probably a total of 7-8 hours to put the content of the book together and then edit it. And then it's taken us 2.5 years to build a launch plan, get a publisher, do all that stuff. Like it's a process, but yeah, at this point we just got the first print. So comes out. Oh,
damn. Soon. Looks fantastic.
Thank you.
Looks fantastic. We'll put the visual and the links in the show notes after I'll get that from Terry, I guess. The foreword to the book, which was written by Keith Ferrazzi, right? Yeah. Author of Never Eat Alone. Fantastic foreword, actually. I really love this foreword because he mentions that when you find something that works in life or business, that it's our duty to teach others. Mm-hmm. How does this book uphold that obligation?
Oh, it's core to it. That's why I agreed with it so much is mm-hmm. I don't feel people are like, well, if you're giving all your marketing secrets away, then people can just do it. I'm like, yeah, well, it's more than just a bunch of like black box stuff that we do. It's work. So yeah, we'll introduce you to everything you can go do yourself. And our mission at Hawke is accessibility to great marketing. So the idea of making great marketing accessible, because I always found that the best marketers are not, that there's a bit of pretentiousness and just a culture around marketing that if you're really good, you only work with the best brands too. Well, that's ironic. So what about all the other ones that need your help? So that was how we built Hawke Media. And so it's the same idea here. Like there's people that can't afford Hawke Media. We started $2,000 a month. We're not expensive, but there's people that don't have that kind of money that now they can buy a $15 book or $16.95. I think Amazon's still discounting it though. And so you can buy a $15 book and get a bunch of our methodology. And if you can run some of it yourself, you can scale to a point that you're going to want our help. And we always talk about like our value isn't just the knowledge we have, it's also the actual bandwidth and execution. And so let's put the knowledge out there. Frankly, we're sending this to every one of our clients, every one of our employees, because then we speak the same language. They know what we're doing. It still takes work to do these things.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's books are, I mean, it's an adventure in itself. I know people that have started the process. They have a great concept. They have the content and they gave up because it was.
Well, that was me. I mean, that was my last book. I got it to proposal and outline and actually had written a lot of the book and just went, this isn't going the direction I want. So I'll revisit the content later, but.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now that forward also had an interesting question in it. And I wanted to ask you the same one. It says, What comes to mind when you hear the term marketing? And I thought that was a really interesting exercise, just that one word, like what comes to mind. So what's your definition of marketing? And I ask this question all the time because it's something we're passionate about too, which is branding and marketing. What's the difference between branding and selling? And I ask this question all the time because it's something we're passionate about too, which is branding and marketing. What's the difference between branding and selling?
Yeah. Well, branding and selling, I think I can define a little better, but I would say the term that comes to mind, I've never actually directly articulated this, so I appreciate the challenge, but I would say it's something along the lines of every bit of the focus of the management of the customer journey, from when they first become aware you exist to when they buy, and what all the touch points that make that customer journey. And I do believe that even merchandising has parts overlap with marketing and things like that. So customer experience, obviously, all those things are part of marketing.
Well, on the spot, that was a fantastic breakdown. Probably the best definition of marketing you'd get on the spot from anyone. So well done. Now, you have helped, thousands of brands succeed by unearthing deeper aspects of marketing. And you touched on this, but maybe if you could go into just a little bit more detail, like how do you do that? What's the process? When you sit down with the brand, where does it start for you?
So where it starts, I mean, honestly, it's if they're digital, it's quick look at their analytics to see where you're getting your traffic and your revenue from. So that's for digital, which is majority of our clients, I'd say a small majority, like 60-65% are probably, or more than that, because we do have a lot of software companies too, but we do a lot of brick and mortar stuff as well. But digital helps us get a start. And I'm looking for the 3 pillars. So I'm looking, okay, so how are you creating awareness for your company? And when I say awareness, I mean, how are you introducing your product or service to a new consumer that you didn't have before? And that doesn't mean they've bought yet. It's just making them aware. And so that could be, where are you advertising? What kind of PR? How are you driving word of mouth? How is word of mouth going? Do you have a good viral coefficient? Are people talking about you? All these things that I want to look at. Then we go to nurturing. What are you doing on the nurturing side? And nurturing is the most missed part of marketing by far. And it's missed by some stuff in the book about it. Like I've seen it missed by multi-billion-dollar companies. It's crazy. Where actually we're hopefully bringing on one right now that I think they finally have an email marketing strategy. And I think they do $8 billion in revenue a year, something like that, publicly traded company. Like, it's just like, what do you mean? Because that drive for our clients, it's like 25% of revenue and you're just not doing it. Like, crazy. That being said, so nurturing, basically there's a principle that people miss in marketing. It's the idea of a purchase cycle or consideration period. And it basically what it is from the time you're introduced to a product or service, so you're created awareness, to the time you buy is usually weeks to months. It's not days, it's not hours. It's usually on average weeks to months. And so people think that if I throw a big advertisement out today, I'm going to get a big lift in revenue today. And that's not how it works. And so we watch a lot of people not understand that concept and end up, cutting their marketing short because they haven't let it play out. And there's another line it's actually a quote from my business partner that I say all the time because I think it's a great line, is 9 women can't make a baby in a month. There's nothing you can do to accelerate this time. It takes time. What you can do is guarantee a higher conversion during that time and maybe do a few things to get people a little more interested faster, but generally the averages are going to play out. And so the ways to do that are email marketing, SMS, content, chatbots, all sorts of ways that you stay in touch with your audience while they're going from, I know you exist, to, okay, I'm going to buy this, to buying it, to also post-purchase. Like once they buy, it's very hard to have a viable company that doesn't have repeat customers. So you need to do things to keep them in touch. So that's nurturing. And then trust, synonymous with brand. You mentioned brand earlier. I look at brand as a trust builder. So it's consistency. So early on, when you don't have a brand established, it's all third-party validation to build trust. It's, testimonials, referrals, press, influencer marketing, things that borrow trust from other people. And then as you build a more ubiquitous brand and a brand that people recognize, then it's all about consistency. What are you consistently delivering and how are you doing so? That's what you become known for. Zappos became the brand in customer service because they delivered happiness, as they put it, constantly. That's what they were about. And they became known for it. Part of that also, by the way, is saying that you're about that. And by the way, politics aside, I sincerely, I am not a Trump fan. I'll say it publicly, but Make America Great Again was a great slogan. And I think Reagan might have used it too. But you say Make America Great Again over and over again, and you associate yourself with that, people are going to believe that you're going to make America great again. Like, that is how people work. And it's a dangerous tool, but it's a real tool. And so it's the same thing with building a brand. Consistency of statement is just as much as consistency of delivery. You go the opposite, like in the US, you have Cox and Comcast cable networks have the worst customer service ever, and they're known for it. Like you are known for what you're good and bad at and what you're consistent with. So that becomes a big part of branding. So again, the 3 pillars: awareness, nurturing, trust. So when we look at a brand, we look at what are they missing in those things? What is hurting them? Where are their numbers off? And part of the importance of, frankly, having an agency that has this kind of visibility is we benchmark it. So maybe they think their Facebook ads aren't performing, but we know that the entire Facebook community isn't performing, hence the $10 billion loss. So it's not them, it's the platform. Vice versa. Maybe they go, well, Google's not doing well either right now. It's like, no, it's not Google. Google's fine. It's actually you. Let's go fix that. And that's an important aspect as well. So we go through all that, figure out what they're missing, put together a strategy of here based on your finances, based on what you're missing. These are the things we want to start with. And then frankly, we're month to month and a la carte. So we change and ebb and flow all through it, but we figure out a good place to start.
So just in review: awareness, nurturing, and trust. Those are the 3 pillars that are broken down in the Hawke Method. What are the biggest changes you've seen in the world of marketing and branding over the last few years? And what do you see going forward in a post-pandemic world?
So Facebook for a decade has been the golden goose. You could build a brand to mid 8 figures on just being good at running Facebook ads and a few other things, but Facebook could drive that. And iOS change early on wasn't as affected. We saw some small bumps, but as the year played out, it's been much bigger. And now you've seen the losses from Facebook. We saw that coming. We've seen the losses on our Facebook team. Like it's just not performing like it used to. And it was a golden goose. So when that core marketing channel goes away, you start looking at, okay, how do we diversify off of this and bring back more of a complex marketing strategy? And that's what's necessary now. We're talking to a lot of companies about this. Is like, they're so used to, oh, so should we just move our Facebook budget to TikTok? It's like, no, you should do both, and Google and email and SMS and TV and radio and direct mail. And I know it's fucking miserable because it was so much easier when you needed to do 2 things, but you got to be a good marketer now and look at all the tools out there and the landscape and try a bunch of things, because different brands are seeing different success in different areas now, as opposed to everyone can just spend on Facebook or Instagram and it's fine. And so that's really what's changed. And it's a big change because a lot of companies, there's a lot of shuffling happening. We're seeing tons of agencies go under because all they did was rely on Facebook. We're seeing tons of brands go under because all they did was rely on Facebook. But that also makes room for either new people or existing incumbents to go, okay, great, now your market share is gone, I'm just going to take it over. So for us, thankfully, we're diversified and we were built for this because it's always been our marketing principle, as goes back to the Hawke Method, that we do a bunch of different things, not just focus on Facebook. It's been an easy pivot for us, or I shouldn't say easy. It's been a pivot for us that took some work, but we're fine. And for a lot of people, it's just devastating for their business.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was a couple months ago. I don't know if you remember where Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, I think went down for a day. Do you remember that?
Yep.
And well, of course. But what was interesting about that was, I was on some social audio apps, and in our industry, it literally shut down businesses for a day. Like they were freaking out. Yep. And it forced the conversation. To your point, what else are you doing? You need to cover all the bases. So if one goes down, you could just pick up where you left off and it doesn't kill your business.
Exactly. Which, by the way, and we talk, I have a video I just filmed on this. We talk about it, like treat your marketing strategy like a stock portfolio. Would you go all in on one stock like that? Unless you have some inside information, which you got to be careful, you probably shouldn't do that. You should probably diversify and be in different sectors and industries so that one thing goes down, it's okay. And I believe that, by the way, between digital and traditional too. Like, there's going to be a point, I think at some point it's a catastrophic event, but we're going to lose internet for a while. I just believe like it's bound to happen some point.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
And so if you don't have a backup for when the internet goes down, that's not good.
Right. Like I think they're setting us up for that anyway. I think they're hinting at it. Anyways, I think that's coming. And then the biggest changes to the industry, I guess, kind of what you talked about, right? Just making sure you're omnipresent on all platforms. Is that what you're thinking?
No, I wouldn't say quite omnipresent, because there's also like stay focused. Like don't chase the shiny object. Whatever the newest, hottest thing is, there can be a lot of wasted time. Like Clubhouse. Thankfully, I got out of it. You mentioned audio. Thankfully, I got a lot out of it when I was on it. But I have like 70,000 followers on the platform, and usage went just through the floor after a few months. And it was great for a few months, and then it was gone. And if someone had really invested in it, it would have been a wasted effort. Now I hope they come back. I really think that they do have some.
I love Clubhouse. I'm on Clubhouse quite a bit, actually.
Yeah, and it's great, but it went from like amazing people all the time, great content to I couldn't find a single channel to want to hang out in. So I think they're going to figure it out, hopefully. But in the meantime, that's a good example of how many brands spent a bunch of time on there trying to figure out how to monetize it. And all that time was wasted. And now they're like, oh, all right, next thing. And I think a lot of companies get stuck chasing that shiny object versus going in on the things that are working. And this is a good one too, is, people think that marketing is shifting all the time and everything's volatile and Facebook and Google were the best channels to market on for the past 15 years. Like it just, or not quite 15, decade. So past decade, that's what you've been doing. That's just shifting. So, oh God, a shift every decade? That's not something to worry about. And that's, I think, where it's also important to remember, yes, you want to take advantage of the tools out there, but don't chase every new shiny thing.
If you could pinpoint one thing, or maybe I'll put it this way, in your opinion, what's the most important thing for companies and brands to focus on in 2022 and beyond? One thing.
Lifetime value of a customer. It's between merchandising, marketing. How do you extract as much share of wallet out of a customer as you can? Because advertising is getting more expensive and less targeted. And cookies are going to go away soon. That's going to be another shift. So getting new customers, I think, is going to continue to get harder. And so leveraging the fact that you have customers and getting a high lifetime value, which has always been a big part, but I think it just gets more important as the other parts get harder.
Man, I'm so happy you said that. I talk about it all the time, especially in my industry. I've been in real estate for a long, long time, but agents, everyday boots on the ground agents, they don't understand the lifetime value of a client. They don't.
Yep.
And they've actually done studies on this. It's 8 transactions, which is a lot of money.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. 8 transactions, the lifetime value, because they move every 5 years and then they refer family and friends. So if you nurture them properly and you touch them properly, it translates into 8 transactions over the lifetime of that client. That's huge.
Yeah. Versus not doing it and getting 1. You can literally 8x your business by just handling your existing relationships. I'm
so glad you said that, man. That is of everything you've said, that's so profound. The lifetime value of a client or a prospect or lead, if you put it into those terms, you're going to take them a lot more seriously. And then you're going to have, like you said, the nurturing.
Well, it allows you to be more strategic with how you market too, because if you now are making 8 times as much off a customer, what can you do to get that customer? How much more can you spend in advertising? How much more can you put behind it if you're able to derive 8 times as much out of a customer? Yep. So that's exactly, and that's what we look at, because you get a lot of people that want to focus on, how much did I spend and how much did I make off the first purchase? Well, that's a really short-sighted way. And we're living in marketing is competitive. Someone else is willing to spend more than you are because they know how to actually monetize that and how to measure it properly. And so you're going to end up losing ad space, not knowing how to monitor it. And then you get people that say things like, oh, I don't think Facebook is good for my business. It's like, no. Facebook is good for almost every business. You don't know how to manage your business properly to make this work. And that's the trade-off we see a lot. So in that sense, think about what an agent could do, again, if they knew they were making 8 times as much money as they thought they were off each client.
Are you a new real estate agent or thinking about getting a real estate license? If so, you're going to want to ask about the Greater Property Group's Agent Scholarship Program. Why pay for the cost of the course yourself when the Greater Property Group will subsidize the cost for you? Make sure you reach out and get all the details on the Greater Property Group's Agent Scholarship Program. And you may have answered this, and then we'll move to kind of some personal development stuff, but you may have answered this. What advice would you give an aspiring ad executive looking to make, an impact in the world of advertising and branding? Brand new, just,
Another first question. I appreciate it. Ad executive, I think one of the biggest things I've seen is people think they're either performance, DR marketer or they're a brand marketer, and you need both and you need to have chops in both. So it's really find ways to blend the two. And that's where you can really do good or great work and stand out. The answer isn't one or the other, it's both. And so as you're becoming an ad executive, understand the performance side and how to measure ROI and how to measure lifetime value and CAC and all these things, but then understand what are all the things that you don't measure that build brand equity, because both come into play when you're building a business. And what we see is a lot of businesses get really performance driven. I get it. But then when they get to a certain scale, that performance tapers off and they have no idea how to scale because they don't know how to build a brand. Vice versa. You can throw a bunch of money at a brand. If you don't get any performance, the short term gets pretty hard. So it's that combination that I think makes a really skilled marketer.
That's fantastic advice. Okay. Moving along to a little bit of a wrap up here, Erik. Seems like you work hard and play hard.
Yeah.
Right. Can you tell me a bit more about how you approach that work-life balance?
So I think because there's a cliche statement there, I actually don't drink alcohol anymore. So it's not like play hard in terms of like, I'm going to go rage on the weekends. It's, we almost sold the company a year in and it changed. It's been for a while. So my partner and I met, we decided not to sell, but the conversation was, how do we turn this into a marathon, not a sprint? How do we make it so I want to do this forever and I'm not rushing for some exit? And so at the time it was pretty simple. And I was just like, I want to visit a cool place 2 or 3 times a year. I want to go on a 10-day trip somewhere cool in the world and travel internationally. That was my priority in 2015. His was, he wanted to play golf every other Wednesday morning. But it was actually like, what would we do if we retired right now? I'd travel, he'd play golf. Cool, got it. Why don't we just do that anyways? So that's how we set it up. And then from there, more and more this driver for me that drives me personally, professionally was like, I want to experience everything life has to offer personally and professionally. And so with that, I, got more, and I was always a snowboarder, but I got way more into it. And I did these heliboarding trips. And then I started training for the heliboarding trips and got better. And then I got scuba certified for my honeymoon and then realized that was really fun to challenge myself intellectually, meaning all the studying you do outside of work. I hadn't done that in a while. And so then I signed up to get my pilot's license and spent a year and a half getting that and got my pilot's license and continue to do education there. And I find myself to be a hobby junkie as much as I'm a workaholic, where it's like, what's the next fun thing I can do? And it's created a great sort of harmony because, and we talk about this a lot, I believe in work-life harmony, not balance. Balance connotes opposing forces, that I can only have fun or work, not both, or have life, I guess. For me, it's like mentioned a few times here, heliboarding with a bunch of Canadian entrepreneurs, even though I'm not Canadian and I feel honorary, going surfing with a bunch of entrepreneurs, going to a conference and then doing something else. Now, flying myself to a conference because now I can get there faster, or I have a lunch scheduled in like 3 weeks with a VC we're partnered with, not in terms of investment, but do work together. We wanted to go to lunch about an hour away and I was like, well, let's fly. And so going to fly us both there. Like finding ways to do both, have fun, do work, I think has been a big driver of me, and also has allowed me to turn down a lot of acquisition offers that are life-changing money that like my grandkids will be great, my great grandkids, like true generational wealth that I could sell the business for, that it's like, but then what? And so I already do, like all the things I would do if I sold the company, I already do. And I don't have anything else I'm trying to do. So why change it? And that's been a big driver. So yeah, I definitely try to play hard too, whether it's mountain biking, I played guitar since I'm 4, so having fun with that. Going on a 10-day snowboard trip tomorrow.
Yo, I know who you run with. I get it. I get what you guys do. Yeah. I see you party with Kanye. I've seen that. So you do play hard. Do you have a daily routine? Do you have a morning routine, anything like that? Or is it organic?
No, get up at 4:30, do yoga for 20 minutes, then sit in the hot infrared sauna, then get a workout in, then, I guess meditate for half an hour. Like, nope, none of it. I wake up, I stare at my phone for about 15 minutes, trying to get, wake up. And then I shower in like 10 minutes and back out to my laptop to start my first call usually. So I usually get up between 30 and 45 minutes before my first call. Again, take 15 minutes to get up, shower, blah, 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 go. I don't eat breakfast because I realized that it being the most important meal of the day was actually a General Mills advertisement, not an actual thing. And I never really cared about breakfast. So I usually just lunch and dinner. And so I literally get up and like, we work from home now. So I'm in my little converted garage is where I have my office. So if it's cold outside, I might sit on my couch for the first few calls, or I'll walk outside to my garage and get to work. And that's really my morning routine. And I do exercise almost every evening these days, but I do have a lot of evening dinners and things like that too. So I try to balance that, but I do try to exercise between 5 and 6 days a week, some sort of activity. I have a trainer 3 days a week. So that I'd say is pretty routine, but I've also never really liked full routine. Like it's nice to have for like a month and then I like to break it up. So
for the Canadians listening, he did say when it's cold outside and he doesn't want to go from the house to the garage. He did say that.
I did. Not Montreal cold. I don't know if I'd ever leave the house.
The Canadians are rolling their eyes right now.
Oh,
it's a little cold in LA right now. And
it was 42 degrees yesterday morning. I did go out, but that was cold enough.
Oh, well, listen, man, I'm proud of you for doing that. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. But, a refreshing take on a daily routine, I think it's getting to be a bit much, when you see some of these influencers and entrepreneurs talking about pouring their spring water and doing 10 minutes.
The hustle point of it is just a little annoying to me because I think it creates anxiety for people that don't. And it's like, have some confidence. Like, it's okay. If you I've seen all the ads or the things about all the entrepreneurs that wake up at 3 a.m. to start their day. And it's like, yeah, for all of them, there's entrepreneurs I know that wake up at 11 a.m. Like, do what works for you. And that's okay. And I think that's important.
That's it. You nailed it. That's exactly the point I was just going to make here, which is, whatever works for you. If you need that structure, then do it, but success leaves clues and Erik doesn't need it. Okay. Here's a question. If you could have dinner with any three people in history, past or present, who would they be?
I would say maybe Thomas Jefferson. Because I haven't, I love living here. I'm not in terms of weird patriotism, but just I love the US and I love being here. I feel fortunate to be here is more the word. But I'd love to know, after all the arguments about where our Constitution came from, just to ask the man that created it. He's also obviously had a lot of foresight and frankly some lack of. So I'm curious the thoughts there. Richard Branson, I think, is a great sign of that work-life harmony that I talk about. And as someone that I admire, and I've met him, but never really got to sit down and talk for a long period of time. So that would be one. Third one, I hate to be cheesy, but it comes to mind, so I'm just going to say it. But my dad passed, and it'd be great to sit down with him again. Honestly. Yeah,
I love that. Yeah, me too. Same as me. Yeah, I agree with you. It's kind of funny, when it forces you to think about who you value as mentors without being mentors in a weird way, so I think that's fantastic. And this is, you'll know this question. All right. You're opening a bottle of champagne 1 year from now, celebrating something you've accomplished. What would that be?
Yeah. So we're really working on creating a tech between acquisitions and work. We're working on creating a tech backbone for Hawke that can just completely differentiate us in the market. We are thankfully differentiated. We're done just fine, but I want to I went through an exercise in September. I actually went to UT Austin for a week to talk about with this program called Birthing a Giants. And we talked about how do I go from where we are to just, exponential growth, which funny enough, we've had exponential growth. We were one of the biggest companies in the room, but I still went through the exercise and really took it seriously. And we've been talking about, sort of tech enablement, what that looks like for 7 years, and not in some oh, now we have a great CRM, but true, what is going to disrupt our company? What could we move with? And we figured it out, and we're under due diligence right now, probably going to partner with a company that's built part of it and then continuing building it. And the goal is by the end of the year to have that rolled out in a way that we can be this, take up a notch even what we're already doing. And that's really what we'd be celebrating.
That's awesome. Sometimes I put people on the spot with that question and they kind of hem and haw, and they haven't really projected out a year from now. You got the answer. So I like that. I like, where you're going. Final question. So much talk about legacy, right? And the mark you're leaving, when all is said and done, what does the Erik Huberman legacy look like? What do you want to be known for?
Yeah. Our mission at the company really aligns with me. If I can find a way to take all the crap and bullshit out of marketing and really make great marketing accessible professionally, I think that's great. I have a lot of personal legacy stuff too. I want to leave a great family. I want to leave great kids behind. I want to do all that side of it too. But if I'm talking about my true public persona, well-known legacy, it would be that is actually achieving some level of accessibility to great marketing for everyone.
That's awesome. What a great discussion. Thanks so much for joining us today. Good to get to know you better, break down the Hawke Method, right? And the three pillars there, hear your entrepreneurial journey. Very inspiring, fantastic takeaways for anyone who hears this episode. Great stuff. I want to thank you very much, Erik, for that.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.